When I hit start webinar, oh, I just hit it. I just hit the live button, y'all, by accident. It's now 5:02, and I see some folk are starting to already say hello to all of us who are here on the panel. To everyone who's joining us, we thank you for coming in to join us, to all our Bates members and friends. We were motivated to do this based on the fact that this virus has been what it's been throughout the course of this last year. And the way this is going to work, we're going to have those who are on the panel who have had COVID and come through it to come on. They're going to share for 5 minutes, around 5 minutes, how it has been for them, what they've had to experience while they have been in that COVID. And then at the end of that, we're going to introduce our medical professionals. After we introduce them, then we're going to have questions. What we want you to do, those of you who are attending, is to go ahead, and if you have any questions as we're going through the testimonies of those who are sharing, if you would just go ahead and type your question into the chat. We have some folk who are manning the questions, and we will take those questions after we introduce our medical professionals. So with that being said, we are about to get started with those who are going to be sharing. The first one that's going to be sharing after we have a word of prayer. Well, let's do this. First, we're going to have a word of prayer. And we're going to ask Deacon Daniel Guest to lead us to the throne of grace. After we do that, then we're going to ask Quisha Mormon to come and to give us our statement of purpose.
Thank you, Brother Walt. Let us all bow. Eternal and all-wise God, we are living in a tumultuous time, and we have come together today as your children to discuss one of the aspects of the tumultuous time that we are living in. But Lord, at least for me, I've tried to look at what's going on in 2020 through a spiritual insight and eyesight. And Lord, I believe that we are mirroring, these times are mirroring many of the times in your word. For Lord, I know in your word, there were times when you tried to get the attention of your people when we became stubborn. And Lord, sometimes you had to send a plague to get people's attention. Or Lord, if you wouldn't send in a plague, you would let the people just live in their own vices, live with the things that they asked for and the raggedy ways that they lived. And Lord, I don't know if you sent this pandemic. I don't know if you sent this plague, or I don't know if you just letting us live out in our own devices. But one thing I believe that I see is I don't think it's no coincidence that it happened in the year 2020. For Lord, right now we have black against white. We've got red against blue. We have this pandemic in the middle that doesn't care if you're either. But Lord, I think some of us as the church have lost our spiritual insight and oversight. And the last time that I visited an optometrist, I was told that 2020 is perfect vision. So Lord, I think you're just writing the vision and making it plain. Lord, I think you're just showing us in 2020 that we have our eyes on the wrong throne. We keep looking at Trump and Biden and who's on, but that's a man-made throne, Lord. The throne that you occupy is the throne that's above all others. It's never been occupied by anybody else. So right now, Lord, I think that we need to get repurposed. We need to get refocused. And Lord, that's what I believe you're doing for those that are called, those that call ourselves Christians. We walk around with masks over our mouths, but are we saying anything about you? Are we testifying? Lord, we become eerily silent. We sit in our houses, we don't go anywhere. And then when we do go somewhere, we have a mask on. I'm asking that each and every Christian, when he does venture outside of his house, even if you do have your mask on, say something about the God that we serve, because our God is almighty. So right now, Lord, we ask that you would bless all the panelists, Lord. We'd ask that you would bless all the people that are on this call, Lord, and just have us to get something out of this going forward, Lord, because you are still in control. You are still God and God all by yourself, and you still reign and super reign. So for that, Lord, we say thank you and bless you and amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Daniel. At this time, we're going to ask Ms. Quisha if you will come on and give us our statement of purpose, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Quisha Mormon. The purpose of this panel discussion is that we've recognized within our church family, within the African-American community, the detrimental effects of COVID-19. All of us, whether we have been affected by the virus, whether we know someone affected by the virus, just watching television, we're all affected by this in some form or fashion. So we've decided to bring out the realness of this virus. This virus is real and we recognize it. So within the Black community, we know the importance of our church family, the support from our church, and we have to do it virtually. So we thought long and hard about this on how we can reach out to you all. True testimonies from people who have battled this, testimonies from individuals who are frontline workers who see the dying patients who have suffered and battled with this virus. So this is our time to educate, to inform, to empower each of you, our Black community, the seriousness of this. This is not a hoax. This is real. And we as a church family, we want you safe.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Quisha. Now it's time for us to hear from our panelists, those who have been infected and contracted the virus and have now come out on the other side. I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and we will let them have the minutes that they have been allotted to go ahead and say what needs to be said on their behalf. The first one that will be sharing with us, and he's actually my cousin, you all, his name is Will Holder. And so we're gonna ask him to go ahead and unmute himself and come on in and share with us, Will.
All right. First of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and thank the panelists for putting this together. And thank you, Walt. It's a great job you're doing, man. I'm going to get right to it because, this must be good because it seems like the devil's trying to work a little bit today. If you live in around 44th Elliott or whatever, our whole neighborhood just lost power. I was all set up with my half-dead laptop and everything. And all our power, while I'm sitting on the front porch, our whole power in this whole neighborhood just went out. So I went down to my RV. I said, well, I just fired the generator on the RV. And I don't know what the grandkids left a light on or whatever, but that battery's dead. So I got 5% on this laptop. So and I'm working on a hotspot. So I'm gonna try to get to it. And so when my cousin, you know, he asked me about this thing, told me about it, asked me would I be willing to share my testimony and kind of how things went with me with the COVID. You know, I was really glad to. We did a story, my wife and I, they did a story on us in one of the Catholic newspapers about it, because I think I'm probably one of the first people, probably the first person on here to have contracted that virus. And so it was really new, and the people kind of treated you like you had the plague or something. You know, it's a little more well known now. People are acting like it's not serious like they did back then, but it's even worse now. So I think we need to be more serious about it. You know, now when I first got it, the Home Depot lines were long and all of that stuff, and now it's like, you know, nothing's going on, and I think that's kind of misleading. You know, so I was working in New York. I left Louisville going there right when they were starting talking about everybody do the elbow bumps and all of that stuff. So it was just, you know, and we had maybe 1 or 2 cases, and it was just kind of starting to kind of kick off, but we wasn't talking about it here in Louisville. So when I got to New York, I was there a couple of days, and things started to kind of change. They put a curfew in, and then I noticed all the grocery store lines along, the toilet paper was disappearing, couldn't find, you know, aspirin and that type of stuff. So it started to get a little scary, but it didn't really bother me at all. But and one night I just went back to got my room, my food, went back to my hotel, called my wife, sit down, talked to her for a little while, ate my food, sit down and watch a game, and I fell asleep. And I just tossed and turned that whole night. You know, it just felt funny. And you know, I woke up in a pool of sweat. And I said, oh man, what's going on? I feel like, I think I done caught this virus. You know, not really that serious about it, but I had a flu shot. So, you know, I figured it wasn't the flu. So first thing I did, call my wife and told her I think I might have the virus. And she said, well, call your doctor. So I called my doctor, and he kind of came to an assumption that I probably had it. And so I called my wife back, and, you know, she said, well, you might need to stay there because you might can get a test there, because, you know, they were just starting to give people tests and everything. And something told me, man, I'm ready to get in this car and I'm coming home. So I drove home. It's a good thing. Most of the time I usually fly back and forth, but it's a good thing that time I had to take tools, so I was driving. So I came home, and my wife, I had told her to be ready. I said, you know, you just go stay with our son, and I'm gonna stay in the house by myself. So I called the doctor when I got home, and I was feeling okay. Then that night I just started to feel really bad. And he said, well, they weren't really giving tests here. You know, no one can really get a test. So he said, just stay home. I said, well, okay. And, you know, not really knowing what to do. I take a blood pressure pill. I'm still taking this pill, and not really eating or drinking, just didn't have an appetite. People were bringing me food, leaving it on the porch and stuff like that, you know, because then everyone was scared of me. So one night all I could do was drink cold water. So I got up to go get me some water, and I just kind of lost it. And when I woke up, when I came to, I was head first laying in my pantry, staring at this box of Quaker Oats that I had knocked over, looking at the Quaker Oat man, wondering why is he in my face. So I said, what is going on? So I stood up and immediately fell right back down. And I started to really get scared. I didn't call anyone, which was a mistake. I probably should have called 911 at that point. So I said, if I can just get back to this bed. And I fell 2 more times, which I realized that the next day because I saw some other stuff in the house that I had knocked over as I had fallen. So, but I couldn't recall it, you know, when I fell, but I know I fell 2 more times getting back to the bed. So I called 911 the next morning, and I let them know I think I had the COVID and everything. So they came, the guys, you know, I met them at the door because they seemed kind of scared. They had their mask on. I had a mask on and everything. So they got me in the ambulance and said my oxygen level and everything was good, but my blood pressure had bottomed completely out. And that's something I found out when I got to the hospital, was the fact that I guess your body has a defense mechanism. When your blood pressure bottoms out, it makes you pass, and you lay so your brain can get blood. So my brain wasn't getting blood, and that's what made me pass out. And then I could come to and stand back up and pass immediately right back out. So that's how I ended up in the hospital. They gave me the test, did the brain surgery. I don't think it's the same. I had a test recently, and it seemed like the first time I had the test, I mean, that lady stuck that thing all the way up. Seemed like she was, like I said, it felt like surgery. It was so bad. So, but anyway, they did the test. They kept me in there 2 days, gave me some IVs, started to eat a little better. I lost a lot of weight. I got down to about, I walk around at around 190 something. I got down to about 160. Over those 2 weeks, I lost that much weight because I wasn't eating, wasn't drinking. But they gave me the test, and I kind of got IVs in me and everything. I never had, they took me off the oxygen because my oxygen level were fine, and never had a ventilator or anything. So I was blessed. My family really looked out for me. Everyone brought me food. Everyone, really, it scared everyone. I think we were more afraid of it then than we are now. And it's good and bad. I think we still need to be afraid of the consequences of this virus. So like I said, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I don't know when this iPad is gonna die, but I appreciate you all listening, and I'm better now. I've had no side effects or anything. Some people have the long-term things, but I'm better now. But I'm really blessed because however close you are to death, when your brain is not getting blood, that's how close I was. And it let me know how serious it could have been. I'm fairly healthy. I'm 53 years old, fairly healthy. I take a blood pressure pill, but I maintain my blood pressure with that, but I'll exercise and everything, and it still did me pretty bad. So I just encourage everyone out there, if you have a brush with this thing, man, to really take it seriously and continue your social distancing. And the vaccine is here, but it's not going to do us any good until we get it. So right now we still have to do what we think will keep these numbers down and keep our families safe. So thank you all for listening to me, and appreciate you all. And I'm gonna hang on as long as my laptop will stay before it dies out. So you all take care, and thanks for hearing me.
All right, thank you so much, Will. We appreciate you taking the time out to share with us. Next up is Miss Erica and Kennedy Zachariah. We'll let them go, whichever one wants to go first.
Hey, good evening. I actually go first. I'm Erica. My voice is kind of raspy a little bit because I celebrated yesterday for my graduation. So, but anyway, I tested positive in July when that's when everything started to kind of try to open right back up. They started allowing restaurants to be open, and we ended up traveling to New Orleans actually. And I wore my mask. I did everything I was supposed to do. I had my disinfectant wipes, wiped down seats, sprayed my luggage, had gloves. I did everything that I thought, I was supposed to do. Um, we came home. It was about a week after we came home is when I started to feel, have symptoms that presented itself as my normal head and sinus cold. I had a sinus headache, sore throat, stuffy nose. I lost my smell, but I could still taste. Um, but it was like my normal symptoms. The only difference was I had really bad fatigue, and I had body aches. Of course, so we took a test because we took a test because we ended up traveling. So after I found out that I tested positive, I cried because still people, it was just like so much. You only heard about death on TV, and so you heard about people, being fine at one point, and then the next they take a turn for the worse. So it was still, like the unknown, and so I'm like, am I gonna die? I didn't really know what to expect, and so after just hearing the negative on TV, in addition to hearing the negative from people who shamed those who had COVID. It just kind of worked more on me mentally. We physically were fine besides our normal symptoms and the fatigue. We didn't have to be in the hospital. We didn't have fever or anything, but it was just the unknown and the negative, and it just kind of took a toll on me mentally. And trying to think about my child who also tested positive, and it was just very emotional for us. So after um, just kind of going through that negative spot for a few days or whatever, we kept testing positive too. Test after test after test, we were testing positive. We felt fine, but we still kept testing positive, and we were like, what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to get, could we still get sick, and end up in the hospital? So I just had to just kind of change my thinking, and I began to just try to take it as a positive, that okay, yes, I do have it, but I'm home. I can recuperate here at home, and I can be with my daughter. So let's just try to make it the best out of it. So that's what we tried to do. So although, like I said, we didn't have to be in the hospital, it did take a toll on us mentally, and emotionally. But we did try our best to make the best of it.
When I tested positive, I was scared. I didn't really like. I thought like, oh my God, if I got it, I'm gonna die. And at first, before we tested positive, me and my mom were talking. And we're like, oh, it's just gonna be like a cold or something, because I think I started showing symptoms 1st.
Mhm.
And she was like, it's just gonna be a cold or something. Then we actually went to go get tested, and then the results came back. And I was just really like scared and sad because I knew that I had to, be isolated from my family. And I'm really a family person. I like to be around my friends. And so that was just like, it made me sad because, I like to be around them. Um, my symptoms, of course, they were just body fatigue. I just felt really, really tired, runny nose, a bad headache, and all I could do was just lay down, watch TV, not really do anything. So I was really, I'm an overthinker. So when I just sit, I just think about stuff, and it was just mostly negative thoughts. And I was trying to put positive thoughts in my head while I was sitting, like think of other ideas to do. Um, I was scared that people weren't gonna want to hang out with me because they knew I had COVID, and I was just didn't want my friends to not, want to be around me. Um, yeah, it was. We lost like our sense of independence, like going to the grocery store and stuff. Like we couldn't do that anymore. We had to have everyone do stuff for us, and me and my mom, we always do everything together, and it was just a lot on us. Like she said, I tested 4 times. I tested positive 4 times before I got my negative. So like going through that whole process was just really frustrating. Like it was just a lot on me.
Thank you all.
Sorry.
Thank you, Erica and Kennedy. We appreciate that. Next up to share with us is Miss Lisa Carey.
Hello. First off, I want to say thank you, Walt, for all your help and all the things that you've done to make this happen. And I want to thank Daniel Guest for that wonderful prayer. That was really, really a good prayer. It hit me where I needed it. When all this pandemic first started, I was I just began to cry. I cried every day when it first they shut down everything. I just kept crying, and I knew that it was more to this than just this virus, just like Deacon Daniel said. So, but when I began to get sick, first I thought I had kidney stones. Well, I did have kidney stones, and I went to the doctor for that because my back was hurting me really bad. And when I went, they told me, you do have kidney stones. So I had already been out of work for a while because I was in pain with that. And then it just kept getting worse. I just kept feeling really, really bad. I was like, I don't know, this is something different. And I had a slight cough. I never had a fever. I just kept having a cough and my back was hurting me really badly. And I started sweating. I started having cold sweats and I was real clammy and sweating. My head was hurting. I never have a headache. And I was like, something's wrong. Even though I got the kidney stone, the doctor said I had passed it and I probably had one on the other side. They tested me and said I had one on the other side. So I was like, something else is wrong. So I called immediate care and I went there and they tested me. And I think like a day or so later, they called me and told me that I did test positive. And it was almost like I knew because I was just clammy and sweating. So I knew that, yeah, I felt like I did. And then I was afraid also, just like the young lady just said just a second ago, I'm a hairstylist. And I was like, I felt like I didn't want anybody to know because it was like early on. It was in June when I got it. And I felt like that everybody was going to blame me if someone else got sick. And I hadn't been around anyone, but I just felt, kind of like I was a leper or something. So anyway, I stayed home and I was very, very tired, very fatigued. I had headache, I had diarrhea, I had a rash on my skin, I had a very heavy cough. I just couldn't shake. They gave me cough medicine. They gave me a steroid for that. They told me to take pain medicine. I was in a lot of pain. Even now, my eyesight, I can't see to begin with, but my eyesight feels like it's really bad. My memory feels like it's bad. It was pretty bad. It was pretty scary. And then at the first week, I was kind of okay. And then the second week became where I could not breathe. My breathing became so labored that it just felt like I had a dark, foggy cloud in my lungs. And I feel like I got pneumonia. My doctor said that she didn't think I did, but I didn't see a doctor after this started. They didn't even want me to come to the hospital. So it was very scary. I at one point, after about 2 weeks, I thought I was going to die. I really thought I was going to die. And I did a lot of praying, but, and God did work it out for me. But it was very scary. It's a very real thing. And so after 2 weeks, the health department called me back and I stayed on the phone with the lady for like 2 hours and I was crying because I was like, I don't want to make anybody else sick. This is so bad that I just want to make sure that I don't pass this on to anybody. So she told me that she felt like I was better and that, she was going to release me. And that I think the next day I went to the dollar store to get some water. And while I was out, I still felt bad. I was like, I don't feel my normal self. So I came back home and stayed in another week and a half because I just didn't feel right. But I never had a fever. I had a lot of symptoms. And this is a very real situation. And I think that everybody needs to continue to pray and just trust God until this is over, because it's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not easy to deal with. This is a bad thing. So that's my side.
All right. Thank you, Miss Lisa. Thank you, Miss Lisa. We appreciate you taking time out to join us and share with us. At this time, we're going to ask Deacon Guest, if you'll come on and share with us.
Thank you, Brother Walt. For me, there's a group of guys that I golf with. We've been going on out of town. We've been all over the United States golfing. We've been doing it probably 12, 15 years or something. And we always go We normally go the week before Derby, and it was all crazy. The last couple of years, we've been going down to the coast, down in Alabama, down in that way. We're supposed to go the last week again of April. We normally go right before, when all the crazy Derby stuff is going on here, the parades and stuff, so we can get away. But this year we had to postpone it, and so we went the last week of July. And anybody that's been in Alabama in July, Jesus Christ, it was 100 degrees in the shade. But long story short, we go and we golf Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, and then we come back. So it was 8 of us. Same thing like everybody else. We had our mask. You know, we had the lodge that we stayed in. It was 2 of us to a room. We disinfected when we walked in. We cleaned the bathrooms. We did everything. When we went to the restaurants, we sat like 2 at a table. I mean, we did everything we were supposed to do. So again, we got there on a Wednesday. I believe it was Saturday morning. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got up to go use the restroom. And I got in the restroom and I just started shaking real violently. I got these like cold chills, and I'm like, and one of the things that I thought was when we were out playing golf, it would be like 105, 108, 110 degrees in Alabama when we were playing during the day. And then when we would get back to the lodge, you know, the air was on. So it was, you know, 68, 70. They kept it cool in the lodge. So I'm thinking I had heat exhaustion is what I first thought. And so then Saturday we went to play, and one of the other guys said, man, I had the chills last night. We need to turn this air down. So I guess long story short, we headed back Sunday. We played Saturday. I felt fine Saturday evening. We played Sunday. But on the way back, it's like a 6.5 hour drive. On the way back, there was like 2 or 3 of us that just really wasn't feeling good. And you kind of looked at it like we play a lot of golf. And so we kind of looked at it like we had heat exhaustion. We've been in and out of the heat and in and out of the air. You know, we've been eating and drinking and doing. Everybody was just wore down. You know how vacations are. I got back to the house. It was probably about 10 o'clock. And when I stepped to the front door, I was sick as a dog. So my wife greeted me. She's like, I'm so glad to have you back. I'm like, don't touch me, back off. I said, I'm going to sleep in the guest bedroom. She's like, what do you mean? Like, I ain't seen you in a week. I'm like, I don't feel good. And with this COVID thing going on, I'm not sure. So I went and I slept in the guest bedroom. Well, 2 of the gentlemen that went with us, one of them he's the head chef at a retirement home. And so he had to test Monday morning at like 7 o'clock because he went out of town, and he had to test before he could come back because, you know, all of his residents are 65 or older. One of the other gentlemen that went with us, he works in where they do colonoscopies, and he's an assistant that helps get people ready for that. He had to test before, and they did the instant test. Well, the one gentleman tested out about 8 o'clock, I'm positive. The other gentleman tested out about 9 o'clock, he's positive. So it was pretty apparent that I was too. So we all 8 ended up getting COVID. And so there was 5 of us that got it pretty bad. 3 of them, one of them got it kind of so-so. 2 of them didn't have any symptoms at all. I think because of my age, I'm the oldest one in the group. I had it the worst, but I remember trying to set up a test, and it was like Tuesday then, and I couldn't get a test till Wednesday. So I set my test up, and I remember it was Thursday night. And I was like Will. I was passing out. I was having my temperature swings. I was going from just so hot that I was waking up in pools of sweat to freezing and shaking so bad that the headboard was hitting. There was one day it was 96 degrees outside. I was underneath. I had on a pair of sweatpants, 2 t-shirts, a hoodie, and I was underneath the blankets and the comforter, and it was 96 degrees outside. I was shaking violently. The headaches were migraines times 10. I mean, I'd never experienced headaches like that. And I mean, I lost all of my taste, all of my smell. To this day, my smell on a scale of 5 to 10, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 is probably a 5. my taste is maybe about a 7. I mean, I can taste stuff that's either really sweet or really sour, but anything in between, just like chewing on stuff. So I remember Thursday night, I couldn't breathe. And I was staying in the guest bedroom and I wasn't coming out. And in the bathroom over there, it's, you know, we got 3, 4 bathrooms. I don't know how many, I forget. But that was my bathroom. And so I remember I was so weak. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was so weak that I had to go to the bathroom, that I got myself out of the bed and I literally had to slide down the wall of the hallway. I slid down, I made it to the bathroom because I didn't want to bother. My son still lives here and my wife. My wife was nervous, so nervous the whole time. I remember sitting there in the bathroom and I got done and I was like, okay, I can't get up. And there's a window sill like right next, you know, there's a window right there. So I'm talking to myself, all right, on the count of 3, we're going to get up and grab the window sill. So I made it to the window sill, made it to the wall. And before I could make it back to the bedroom, it was like something just closed my throat up. I couldn't breathe and I panicked. And so I went across the house to the other side. I knocked on the door. I told my wife, I said, I got to take myself to the hospital. I can't breathe. And she was so scared, but let me drive. No, you can't drive me. So I drove myself to the hospital. And like Will said, when I got there, my blood pressure was some crazy. It was like 77 over 45. It was something stupid. So the guy asked me why I was there. And I had taken the test Wednesday, but I hadn't gotten the results back yet because it was Thursday. I said, dude, I got COVID. And he looked at me, he goes, how do you know? So I told him. A bunch of guys went on the trip. They all got it. 3 or 4 of them already tested. And I was with them. I know I got it. So it was interesting. They were in there. Him and another nurse were in there talking to me. So they did the COVID test. The next thing I know, I was laying in the bed, IVs and all this in the emergency room. I could see them sliding the glass doors together. There went the Ghostbuster stickers up. Don't come in here. Then the next thing I see 3 or 4 people coming into space suits and all this other type of stuff. And I was just sitting there looking, and it went from us having a cordial conversation to, you know, them, it just looked like they were out there flipping coins, like who was going to go in there. And so they finally came in, doc's like, yeah, you positive and blah, 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 and so forth and so on. Well, they kept me for a day. You know, I ended up getting back. But I think the toughest part for me was I was sick as a dog for 2 weeks. And I mean, I don't know how much weight I lost, and I didn't eat for a week. And I think the toughest part for me was the strain that I believed I was putting on my wife and my son. Because, you know, somebody said earlier, man, people don't talk about, when they talk about this disease, they talk about how, but they don't talk about the psychological effects. They don't talk about, I think it was Lisa talk about being a leper. I mean, my wife would make food and she would knock on the door and leave a tray right there. And I had to struggle out of bed to get it. I remember after the second week, I would try to get up about 4 or 5 o'clock and go sit on the deck and just listen to some old school music, just so I could get out and see some birds and stuff like that. I remember one night, I go to bed, I'm an old dude. I go to bed probably about somewhere between 9 and 10. I was so scared to go to sleep because I couldn't breathe that I would sit up in the bed literally to 3 and 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning until I passed out because I was so scared. Another thing that really hindered me was the conversations that I was having with God. Having to admit to God, probably one of the few times in my life, because I'm a big dude, I ain't afraid of nothing. But having to admit to God that I was scared, and then reading the word saying God doesn't give you a spirit of fear, but you can't breathe and thinking you're going to die, then you telling God, man, I'm scared, probably for the first time in my life. And then one particular day, you know, I'm staying in the room, the door is shut for, I don't think anybody realizes if you stay in a room that's 12 by 12 for 3 weeks with a door shut, how psychologically crazy that is. There was one night I was laying in the bed and I was hallucinating because the walls were closing in. And I saw both of my walls coming in. I struggled and got up out of the bed. I stumbled over to the door and I fell out of the room and opened the door. My wife came running. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't do it. The walls are closing in. And she's like, but honey, you can't come out here. And I'm like, but I can't stay in there either. And so I actually came out and sat in the kitchen for like 3 hours. I just sat there. And again, when you're in a room by yourself, in this little bedroom, I got the TV in there. Every time you turn it on, here's the governor and the mayor. We got 800 sick today, 500 died today. That's all you heard. Then you heard Trump and wasn't it going crazy, you know, and it's like, but then you turn the TV off and then you're left in the room to your own devices. And you're sitting there and I'm reading the word, I'm praying, I'm doing those type of things. But I felt like, you know, when I came out one evening to get something to drink out of the refrigerator, when I turned back around, my wife was spraying Lysol and wiping off the refrigerator. I mean, she was literally following behind me, spraying and wiping. And I just thought, wow. And then when I went back to work, you could just see how people just walking away, you know, they taking a long way around your desk, you know, they ain't coming there. So I think what a lot of people don't talk about with this pandemic is the psychological. Same thing for me, Lisa. The lady from the Department of Health called me one night and she started talking about psychological and seeing stuff and suicidal tendencies. And is anybody in the house treating you bad, or do you need it? We was on the phone too for about 2 hours. And she was telling me about people that she had talked to. One lady was in an apartment on the second floor and told her 3 times she was going to jump because she thought COVID was going to kill her. She was just going to get ahead of the COVID. And so it's those type of things when you feel like a leper. And then as a Christian, you go, where this fear is coming from and those type of things and hallucinating. And for me, the chills and the fever was unbearable. The headaches, I mean, I was sick as a dog. But, you know, I think looking back on it for me, it was a blessing because it kind of goes back to that's kind of where I got that prayer from. Because when I was talking to God, God said, you know, in me in particular, you've kind of lost vision of who I am. You know, everybody was too busy worrying about red and blue, and you know, Brianna. I went out and marched and did all those things are important. But what's funny is to me today, seems like to me that the politicians are speaking, you know, the athletes are speaking, everybody's speaking, but to me, the church has become eerily silent. And I know a lot of it is because, you know, we're not meeting. And again, like I said earlier, God said to me, the next time you walk out of the house, you need to pull that mask off when you get on the golf course, when I finally got healthy again. And you need to tell everybody you run into about me. Because I think what it is, like I said, the devil's not intimidated by us if we sit in our own little living rooms and watch F. Bruce Williams. Because we ain't testifying and doing nothing sitting in your own living room. And then when we do go out of the house, we got these masks on and we're staying 6 feet away from each other. Well, you know, the other symbolism of 6 feet is, I don't have to tell you about that. You know, so we are spiritually dead right now. And you know what, and I believe, like I said, that God in the year 2020, God is making this vision plain for us. So I look at it now that COVID was a blessing for me because it got me back on track. You know, and even all the stuff that I do at Bates and do in the church, sometimes you can get to thinking you just a little bit more than you are, that you're doing okay and that you're doing all this. But when God puts you in certain positions and he tells you to your face, you looking at the wrong throne. I don't know why you worried about Trump. He ain't running stuff, I am. And you looking at this, you looking at that. It got me refocused. And so I appreciate Walt for we've been talking about this for months, for finally putting it together and having it. Because I think it's important for us as church members to stay connected and for us to hear from different ones, you know, what they went through. So Walt, I appreciate you and love you and everybody else. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel. We appreciate you as well, man. Next up is our friend, our brother, Daryl Johnson, better known to most of us as Blue. Hey, Daryl. Daryl, get Shay to help you with your speaker, with your microphone, man. We can't hear you. Can't hear you yet. I tell you what, where's Shay? Go ahead and get Shay. I tell you what, you get Shay so she can come in there and help you get set up, get your mic on. We're gonna go ahead and go with the next person in line, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, Daryl? All right. Next up is Icky Bria. Miss Icky Bria Brown is next. We're gonna have her to come on, and we'll come back to Daryl in a little bit.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. So I tested positive at the end of April, probably around the 28th. We had just got sent home from work, and they closed our building and sent us home. So I thought I had bronchitis because I was coughing a lot and my chest was hurting and I was headaches and couldn't sleep and things like that. And I keep bronchitis. So I did a virtual visit with Baptist, and so they was like, well, yeah, and they called me on a steroid and an antibiotic. I did that for 7 days, so I got worse. And so I did another virtual visit. They called me in a different type of antibiotic. So I couldn't sleep. Like I was like my mind wouldn't shut off. I couldn't go to sleep. It was just like scary thoughts, and I didn't know why. So um, my sister came and she said, "You have to go to the doctor." So they did the virtual visit. They was like, "No, you don't have to come in. You know, everything's good. We're gonna call you in another antibiotic and another steroid." So I did that 7 days or whatever, and um, it got even worse. So it was on a Thursday, and I just could not stop throwing up. I wasn't eating anything, so I couldn't stop throwing up, none of that. So I ended up taking myself to the emergency room. Well, my nephew took me to the emergency room, and they was like, "No, you're not positive. Everything's good." So the very next day, I went to the immediate care in Fern Creek, and they said, "Well, we're gonna send you for a COVID test," which was on that Sunday. And I took the test. They called me like Wednesday, and they said you're negative. So I was like, "Okay, cool." So the next day, the health department calls me and says, "We are so sorry. We gave you the wrong results, all these things." So, mind you, I've been around my family, my mama, she's older, these things. And so I called my family and I was like, "Look, yeah, everybody needs to be tested because they had a false test that they gave me the wrong results." So after that, immediately, like everybody got tested, nobody was positive but me. I slept 5 days straight. My sister came in here. She was like, "Please get up. You're scaring me." Like I couldn't get out of bed. I was just so tired, like tired, tired. And she was bringing me food, leaving it outside the door. Like I couldn't get up. I was just dead tired. So I slept. She said it was like 5 days. Like I didn't get up to go to the bathroom, nothing. I didn't get up at all. I slept for 5 days. And finally, she's like, "Look," she came in here with all her stuff on, and she was like, "Look, we getting up, we walking." So I said, "I can't." Like I couldn't. I was so winded all the time. Like walking across the hall to the restroom, it took me 15 minutes to catch my breath to be able to lay back down and go back to sleep. So I was so scared to go to sleep because I felt my lungs filling up. I felt it, and it was filling up with mucus. Like I would just sit up and try to sleep sitting up because it scared me so bad. So fast forward 5 months later, I'm still sick, still going through the fatigue and the depression and the crying and the whatever it done to my brain and all of these things. So then I went to the doctor. They said I had a cyst on my liver now. I have scarred, my lungs are scarred really, really bad. So um, I guess it was about 2 months ago, I had too many strokes. So they said that's in reference to the COVID and what it's done to your organs and things like that. So I was like, "Look, this is not going to take me." So I started walking every morning. I would make myself go walk the track around here by where we live at. And so I was walking every day. But now it's like my whole being is not the same. Like I'm tired, I'm irritated, my temper is short, like my patience is look like it's never been me. If anybody knows me, like that's never been me. You know what I'm saying? And every little thing just irritates me. Like I'm just like, it's crazy, but I finally went back to work after 8 months being off. I just went back to work November 16th, and it's just a daily process. Like the depression is real, you know. It's messing with my mental. It's like suicidal thoughts. Like it's real, and I've reached out to Miss Tanya on several of occasions, text messages. Please pray for me, cause it's real. It's real, and I tell my nephew he works in the public. He works at a restaurant, Jet's Pizza, and I'm like, wear your mask, clean your hands, you know, whatever you have to do, because don't nobody want this. Like this is scary stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it took me almost 8 months to get back to any type of normal for myself. You know, but it's coming. It's coming, and like I said, you know, people have lost their lives, and I'm blessed to still be here and to be a testimony to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? But it's rough, and nobody seems to understand it. Oh, you walking around like ain't nothing wrong. Yeah, but physically, you don't know what I'm going through on the inside. You know what I'm saying? And it's been rough, but like I said, I still make myself get up and I go and I do things, and just to get back to whatever normal is going to be. But it took its toll. It took its toll, but it didn't take me. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm still moving. So it's just what it is at this point. But now I see a heart specialist, and now I have to take breathing treatments daily. And they trying to put me on all kinds of medication, but I'm not doing it. I don't want to claim that stuff. So I'm trying to do the other way, trying to do it the right way, eating right, exercising. I've lost probably like 10 pounds in the last month. So you just got to do what you have to do for you, but it's real. It's real.
All right. Thank you, Miss Ikibria. Y'all don't know, I've been practicing this all week. I get it. And some of y'all like to call it tie. We call it tie. But thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate you. Daryl, Brother Blue, I heard you. You set now, so you ready? All right.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? All right, great. I'm just listening to all you guys' story about this COVID-19. And the worst part of my life, August the 3rd, my world came crashing down. Because they called me the people's champ around here. And they hasn't never ever seen me lay around like I don't have anything else to do for 2 whole weeks, struggling. I'm a professional barber. I've been barbering for 18 years. And we had got news that we can go back to work. Bills is piling up. Kids need things. Food need to be in the icebox. So I'm like, if it's you, I'm going to take a chance. Lord, if it's you, I'm going to take a chance. So I went to work one day. My wife had brought me something to eat from work. And I said, after I ate this sandwich, I'm like, something ain't right with me. I mean, I wear a mask, I wear gloves, I wear a shield. I try to keep my instruments clean that I work with behind and after every haircut, putting disposable capes on guys and women. So I'm like, okay, it's probably just a stomach bug. So I called my doctor. I'm like, Doc, me and him great friends. He's been overseeing me for over 20 years, Dr. Ivan Anderson at Barrett Avenue. And he's like a brother to me. And I was telling him, I'm like, I'm having a lot of pain, abdominal pains. He's like, well, okay. You constantly saying that I need to see you. He said, is anything else going on? I said, I got the worstest stomach bug I have ever had. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to lay down. I wanted to lay on my side because it's like when I lay on my side, I got comfort. So he called me in for a doctor's appointment. And at this moment, I'm scared. It ain't went nowhere. So as I was going to my doctor's office, he said, let me do a couple of tests on you. So he did a couple of tests. He said, matter of fact, I want to get a CT scan. I'm going to send you at Brownsboro Norton's. I'm like, what's going on that you can't take care of me here? You always take care of me here. He said, I think it's bigger than what we looking at. So I go to Brownsboro Norton's. I mean, I walk in fine. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get taken care of. So they did a CT scan. And before I was able to put my clothes on, the tech was bringing the phone to me. I'm like, this don't happen. You know what? Who's on the phone? It was my doctor. He said, you have pneumonia and you had tested positive for COVID-19. Okay, now the state of man I'm in now, and I'm like, you called me way out here to get these tests done. You always take care of me. What's going on, doc? He's like, I need you to go home immediately. Don't go in no stores. I'm gonna send all your medicines to the pharmacy, and you better not go in those stores. I'm like, hey, this must be serious. I'm watching on the news. Until it hits your step, you don't know what this COVID is. So I came home, and the minute I came home, I'm like, Lord, I can't take this home. I have a family. We had just moved into our home. I'm like, I can't take this home. So I got the call in my wife. I'm like, she said, honey, come home. Come on home. So I laid up in my room for like a day or two. I mean, I went straight downhill. I was able to walk out of the hospital, walk in the hospital, come home, take a hot shower. I mean, I went straight downhill. So I laid around, and this lonely spirit takes over because I'm in a home. You know, a lot of houses ain't homes. I'm in a home, I'm like, I'm lonely. You know, everybody's walking past the room like, this guy's out of it. You know, so as time go on, I'm looking around and like gas, I'm piggyback off of gas. The room does close in. It don't seem like it's closing in. It closes in on you. Because I was trying my best to get out the room, and I couldn't. I catch myself scaling the walls to take showers. My body felt so fatigued. And in the middle of the night, I get up. And I mean, it's like somebody just poured a bucket, not a cup, a bucket of water on me. And I'm so sticky in the middle of the night, it seemed like the covers are stuck to me. But I say this to say this, the condition I was in, I haven't never, ever been able not to take care of myself out of 44 years of living. I mean, I'm normally, you know, up every morning, getting out for work. And there's something that I mean, it hit me hard. And I got to calling my children like, baby, dad is not feeling well. I never felt this way. So I need y'all to take care of some things if things don't go the way as planned. So my wife, she has immune deficiency disease also. So she was trying to take care of me the best way. Then she contracted COVID. And then I'm really scared. I'm like, Lord, please, take me. Don't take her, because she gonna need to be around for these kids. Because I noticed if she was to really had it like I had it, I would have had to get up out of bed to take care of her on my deathbed. But as time went on, you know, a lot of people like, man, how did you get over? You know, I'm never scared to tell nobody how I get over because of what I've been through and where I am today. I said, I praised my way through. I said, it was nice. I couldn't even hardly open my mouth, but just giving God glory. God, I thank you. I love you. I'm yours. You know, whatever I need to do, God, I'm here, Lord. You know, whatever it takes. You know, I thank God that I have a beautiful church family. I got beautiful wives and beautiful children, beautiful friends. And I just want to tell everyone that's listening out there, please, 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 take it serious. Because if I was ever to get it again, I wouldn't probably be on the panel to be able to tell you that, hey, I made it through. Because that's something I never, ever in life wants to go through. So I know that's my time, and thank you all for listening. And people, please take it very serious, because it is serious. Thank you all.
All right, Blue, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. Now at this time, we have one other panelist to share. Her name is Romilthia Prince. She also has a special presentation at the end of her, after she shares, she's going to have a special presentation, and I'm going to help facilitate that. So Romilthia, go ahead and share first, and when you're ready for the presentation part of it, let me know and we'll make it happen, okay?
Okay, excuse me. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Romilthia Prince. For God be the glory. Because if it was not for him, I know without a doubt, I would not be here. So if you had listened to the rest of them, all of us had a different story, a different testimony. No, we did not know their testimony until just as you are listening to it. So I'm going to tell you my story. I worked the polls, so I started working the polls for the 2 weeks. Within those 2 weeks, I was fine and everything. One day, it's okay. My supervisor said, you just sit back. But that following day, I was sick. I couldn't even get up to go to work the polls. Mind you, I have another health issue. And I was thinking that was the problem. I had no idea. But this particular day, my sister told me, have you called the doctor? I said, no. God, you better call that doctor right now. I had no clue that I was really sick. So I did. I couldn't get in, so I went to immediate care. About time I got to the immediate care, I could barely walk. I was slumped over in the wheelchair. Now, let me remind you, you heard the rest of the panelists saying that they had different symptoms. Well, I'm one of them that didn't. I do remember having maybe diarrhea a couple of weeks, I'm sorry. But I didn't think it was anything. I said, well, maybe something I ate. Rolled it off. Maybe 2 or 3 days later, no. I had no symptoms, no vomiting, no sweating, no nothing, no temp. But when I went into the immediate care, she said, well, Miss Prince, I think you may have COVID. And I said, for real? She said, yes, you need to go to the ER. I said, okay. So me and my fiance went to the emergency room. They gave me the test and come back. They said, ma'am, you have COVID. I said, okay. You know, it's all you hear talking about, COVID. But I was in compliance, wearing my gloves, wearing my mask, staying distance, just everything that I needed to do. So I ended up in the hospital October the 22nd. I was told I looked like I was on death row from my fiance. Didn't. The doctor told me if I hadn't have made it in there that night, just don't know what. If I would still be here today to be a testimony to you all who's listening. Also, I had COVID along with pneumonia. No coughing, no nothing. Now, here's where it gets a little emotional. My Lula Williams, who was my mother, I call her Mommy, because I am her daughter from another mother. Now, she ended up in the hospital 2 days later. But mind you, she was positive, I was positive, my fiance's positive, my mother positive, my 2 nephews positive. And I'm wondering, where did I get this from? I still have no clue. But with my mother My mommy, Lula Wilson, ended up in the hospital. Didn't do good. So to this day, I have to be honest with you all. I have to wonder, and not knowing that where I got it from, if I gave it to her. She lived a very obvious life. A member of base. Had 85th birthday, 86th birthday, and then ended up with COVID. Oh, November the 4th, God decided to take my mommy. While I'm still in the hospital dealing with COVID myself. So yeah, the panel said they feel alone. They feel depressed sometimes. I don't think I feel depressed, but in all of this, I still have the effects. Going in without oxygen, coming home with oxygen. Now, also the effects that I have. Sometimes if I'm sitting there, I can barely get up. So I'm dealing with that. And for those you are listening, please, please, please be in compliance with is asked of you. Because you heard that we don't know how we got it. But it's real. It's real as it can be. And while in the doctors did tell me it's going to get worse. It's so bad when it's coming through. So please, take it seriously. Because we all that had, we're not really out of the woods. And that's all I have to do. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come to you with my story. And thanks for our pastor and our social pastor for making this the existence to come with to spread the word out to you all. And y'all be blessed. And thank you once again.
Thank you, Ms. Romilthia. We really do appreciate you sharing from your heart and the intimacy that you had with Miss Lula. At this time, I'm gonna show a short slideshow of Miss Lula. So everyone give me just a minute. Once again, I want to thank all the panelists who have been on to share with us. At this time, I'm going to, I know up until this time, we've just had, the view has just been those who have speaking. I'm going to show you everyone who is on the panel. And I'm also going to introduce the medical professionals that we have with us who are here to help us answer some questions. I know I see what we have, looks like about 13 questions. And I have two people that are going to handle, facilitate the questions, but those who are with us to help us fill these questions are Miss Carolyn Robertson. She's an assistant professor at the Department of Microbiology at the U of L School of Medicine. We also have with us Ms. Quisha Moorman, who gave us our statement of purpose. She is an advanced practice registered nurse, also a family nurse practitioner certified. Along with them, we also have Ms. Dinah Singletary. She is also an advanced practice registered nurse with a Master of Science in Nursing, and she's a family nurse practitioner certified as well. We did have one other professional who was going to be with us. It was Kelly Singletary. She is an MD psychiatrist, a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry. She was not able to be with us today. She texted me a little bit before we got started. With everything that's going on in Texas, her where she's employed, they were called on to assist with what's going on there. And so please keep her in your prayers as she does what it is that, you know, all of our frontline workers are doing when it comes to helping us all to deal with this COVID. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan White and Ms. Sharon Brown, and they're going to let us know what the questions are.
Okay, one of the questions we had was directed for Miss Erica. They were asking if the raspiness in your voice, is that a long-term side effect and kind of a long haul of COVID effect?
No, it's actually from me celebrating yesterday. I graduated yesterday, so.
There was another question directed for you, Erica. Someone asked, do you think, you said you were you traveling to see your family? And if so, do you think that you contracted the virus from family? Because in many cases, we've seen that they can be the main transmitters, according to the person asking the question.
No, we actually traveled, and we just got an Airbnb just to kind of get away and get out of the house. But we just went to an Airbnb. We social distance there.
Yeah, my dad was with us. He didn't get COVID, just me and my mom. So.
And we don't know exactly if we got it while we traveled. They, of course, couldn't tell us how we contracted it, but.
The question, I guess, opposed to all, how do you feel about wearing masks?
I most definitely agree with wearing masks.
Yeah, to protect other people.
Okay. Someone else asked, and the medical professionals probably could answer, is it now mandatory to get the vaccine since you all had the virus?
Right now with the vaccination, it's not mandatory per se to get it at this point. We have to remember there was an emergency order for this vaccination to be initiated. And when we look at it, it's like a trial, right? So now it's solely up to you, persons, if you in fact like to have the vaccination. It's not per se mandatory at this point.
Yeah, additionally, we know as of right now, the primary people who will be receiving these first round of vaccinations are going to be healthcare professionals, those frontline workers, and also individuals who work in long-term care facilities, as well as the occupants of those facilities. So we don't know exactly where down the line the rest of us will be afforded the opportunity to get the vaccines. But as Quisha said, from a scientific perspective, it really is recommended to get the vaccine to help to diminish any potential severe symptoms in the event that you do contract COVID. Also, let me just further say that ideally, if a person contracts COVID, they should produce enough antibodies to protect them. However, we know that that is always not the case. That's why it's recommended that people who have had it, if the vaccine or when the vaccine becomes available, to take that vaccine. We see a primary example of a secondary round of COVID with, I know you guys are familiar with Tiny Lister, who played Debo on Friday. We know him as that beloved character. He had COVID, I think 4 months prior, had made what we thought was a recovery and contracted it again and passed away. So the thing with COVID, as you could see with everybody having, some people had similar symptoms, some people had totally different symptoms. The unpredictability of it, the vaccine is highly recommended for those of us, from those of us in the scientific community.
And can I piggyback off of what Carol said as far as the reinfection? I don't know if anybody has that question, but if you have been infected, can you be reinfected? So in the case of, let's use Debo, that happened with him, Carolyn, you can kind of back me up. You have this 3-month time frame, right? I have taken care of patients that have been reinfected, and it's been within that 3-month time frame. So again, because the symptoms are different, the one that I know was actually asymptomatic both times, which is good. But in that case, with him, when he was reinfected, he didn't make it this time. So those that have been infected, there still is that possibility of that reinfection. And as Carolyn said, that vaccination, it's important to know that this vaccination is going to help with those symptoms, right? You can be vaccinated and you can still contract, correct, Carolyn? You can still contract, but the big thing is the symptoms. So this vaccination will definitely help with those symptoms. That's why it's recommended.
And I would like just to add, just to educate a little bit about a virus in itself. Mm-hmm. So the virus in itself, so the virus carries genes, but the virus cannot produce its own. So what happens is that it kind of hijacks a host. Mm-hmm. And then once it gets a host, then it mutates. And so once that mutates, that means that it changes or it causes a different form. So just like Ms. Carolyn said, you may have this roundabout where you're good, but that second round, they have absolutely no idea what that is going to do to you. So I know that me and Quisha kind of do educate a lot of our patients on making sure that they do different type of cocktails. And those cocktails are things that can boost up your immune system. Those things are like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, elderberry. Now, when I say that, that does not prevent any type of virus,
But in theory, it is to build up the immune system enough to be able to fight. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're battling. The immune system has to fight.
Jonathan, you have another question?
There's one other question. It was about, are you still being followed up by the, I guess, healthcare professionals that reached out from you? I'm going to assume that is about the Department of Health, and is experiencing any long-term effects? I guess after the initial consult and after you've been cleared, it sounds like the health department no longer follows up.
Yeah, they didn't follow up with us when we tested positive. We were told that we would get a call, but we never received a call because I think that was when they were really trying to get into that contact tracing, but we never received a call.
They called me every day, but I was like, it was new when I got it. So they contacted me every day, and then they contacted me on the day that they said that I was no longer having to quarantine. And they made me actually sign a paper that I would quarantine, saying that I would quarantine. They emailed me a form. I had to fill it out and send it back to them, saying, making a promise to the actual, I forget if it was to the state. I mean, it was like an official form that I had to fill out saying that I would quarantine. But like I said, I was one of the first, it was early and it was in March. So I imagine that would be impossible to do that for everyone that has it now, but that's how it was when I had it. They called me every single day until my quarantine was up.
I have another question, kind of paraphrasing one that was put out there. Do any of the individuals who have contracted and feel like you really seriously considered getting professional help for your mental trauma? And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, maybe one of the health professionals could talk about it, about that aspect of it, because many of you voiced having those concerns.
Well, for me, excuse me, for me, no, I haven't looked at it like that. And I am not really for sure if my mind is at that, like thinking, that I am in a depressive stage or whatever, because I am trying to stay busy, even though the effects that I do have. But I will be attending therapy, that I do know. I will be doing that. Thank you.
I would strongly advise each person that has gone through this to get some type of, mental behavior health for this, because it can be a part of post-traumatic syndrome, especially those that have isolated for a very long time, how the mind begins to play on you. It sounds like every, individual on the panels, had some severe side effects and effects from this. And so this is going to continuously play on your daily life. And you really do, I advise everyone to, to seek out your provider to see if they can maybe guide you in that direction, just to be able to get some support on that and some coping skills to be able to help you to endure and be able to, overcome this.
I'm definitely, I'll agree with Dana with its coping at this point. I kind of wrote down some things, the isolation that everyone has experienced, the depression, you're scared, afraid, distance from others, all of those things, right? All of those things have a mental impact on you, right? So it doesn't mean that you need a medication. That therapy in our culture, Black folks don't think, I don't need no therapist, but in a sense, and what's going on right now and during these times, we need therapy, right? Nothing wrong with that. Just for your mental health, right? You got to take care of yourself, but that mental health is everything. So I can't stress it enough, the importance of that therapy, because this is a traumatic event. This is a traumatic event for all of us, right? Traumatic. But those dealing with it, you battle it, you went through it. This is traumatic for you. This is traumatic for your families who had to take care of you. I think it was Brother Guest. He said he thought about his family and the impact, and I'm pretty sure his wife and his son were, they were affected as well. So even in families, doing group therapy together, whatever helps. But I strongly recommend that therapy piece.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to say, Walt, right quick too, was thank you, sister, is when my doctor said to me when I was in the hospital that because this thing is so new and they were trying to figure out things about it, he said some of the different symptoms, and I think Sister Brown was talking about that earlier, 8 months for her. He said some of this stuff may stick with you for 6 months to a year and even 2 years because we're not really sure. So after I got out of, I guess what I would say when I got out of the woods, it was probably sometime in September before I really started feeling human again, I guess, if you would. And then I guess it was October, I started getting these headaches again. And I think it was Lisa said earlier, I never get headaches. And I'm like, man, are we going, so I think psychologically, even now, my wife a week or so ago was coughing and doing stuff. And so, I mean, it heightens your awareness to just the smallest of things. She wasn't feeling good. She was coughing. And I'm like, she works from home. Do you want to get tested? And then she was kind of freaking out because she saw what I went through. And so that's what happens with your family. My son, he's had to test like 2 or 3 different times because his girlfriend was away in college and playing sports and she contracted it. And he went down one weekend to see her. And then when he came back, she called him that Monday and said, well, I just got tested positive. So then again, he started having conversations with me about what he saw me going through. And here's the other thing I didn't say on there. I hid a lot of the stuff I was going through from my family because I know how my wife freaks out about everything. And my son, he's 20, get ready to turn 21. So there were days where I was so sick that I wouldn't even come out of the room because I didn't want them to see me like that. So I think when the sister was talking about, I don't think I necessarily need medication, but it is on my conscience every day about where I was, how I was feeling. And I think Blue said it best, man, I can't go back there again. I mean, and so I think even the people that were from out of town, I mean, I got brothers and sisters all over the country. It affected them. They weren't anywhere close to me. So I think that, again, the psychological stuff that it does to us and how it permeates through your family, it can, it's something that we always have to the point, Walt, where I wanted to suggest that maybe in a couple of weeks, we do kind of a follow-up just to check on each other because I heard some things. I mean, I heard suicidal tendencies. I heard some stuff in there today that, we could just say, okay, let's talk about this today and it's good. I don't think that it is because for somebody that's sitting on this, even on this panel or listening, they may be good today, but what about a week from now? Sister, is very emotional about her mom, and I get that. But I think as a church, if nothing else, we should follow up with each other. Just if it's just a panel to say, hey, how y'all doing? What you doing? Because this thing is real. And even though you think you're doing good today, Sunday, Monday, you may not be.
One viewer typed in, it's not a question, but it's a recommendation that the panelists check with your employer concerning employee assistance programs, EAP, for behavioral health counseling that is free to you. Reverend Holder, I think that's all the questions we have.
All right. All right. I'm going to ask Miss Carolyn, Miss Quisha, and Miss Dana, if you all have anything else you would like to add before we start bringing it to a close. I want to give you a chance to say what you would like to say, and then I also have something I'm going to add at the end here.
The only thing I have to say is just be mindful and please wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance. We're in the holiday season. Christmas is coming. We will get through this together, right? We will be able to celebrate together. We will be able to get back in the church together. But for now, please wear your mask, stay at home if you have to, just until we get this thing on the downside.
I'll just kind of piggyback off of that too. It is a small sacrifice that we do have to do right now. The holidays are not the same. Life is not the same. But soon we will get back. We will get back to that. But again, I just do reiterate just to make sure that follow up with your healthcare providers. Know that you don't need to go through this by yourself. And as well as making sure that you're boosting up those immune systems, taking your vitamins, rest when you need to rest. It is very true that the virus can linger for a very long time. With the fatigueness, you need to rest. If you need to take melatonin or something like that for you to rest, rest. Keep active as much as you can. These good days, get outside and walk. Open up those lungs, healthy diet, just trying to change, the lifestyle, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, especially our African-American women, our vitamin D is always low. We have this beautiful kissed skin from nature. So the sun doesn't absorb very well for us. So our vitamin D is always low. There is research that shows that is correlated somewhat with COVID. Women that have, low vitamin D. So we all need to make sure that we boost up our immune systems with that. Elderberry is a new one that you can also take to kind of boost up that immune system. Hydrate yourself very well. We will get through this. We will get through this. And so I just think we need to continue to support each other. I love what Brother Guest said, that I don't think it needs to stop here. I think that we need to make sure that we continue to follow up on each other. Today is okay, but tomorrow may not be. So we just need to make sure that everyone is doing okay and make sure that we follow up with each one.
I want to say a personal thank you to all of the panelists for sharing your extremely powerful stories. We are so grateful to God that you are coming out or on the other side of this thing. We'll certainly continue to keep all of you in prayer. We know that it probably was difficult to share, but it was so very necessary. And I truly appreciate the fact that you included all of the ugly details, because this is not a beautiful virus. This is not a walk in the park. This is ugly. And people need to know that it can get uglier. So I appreciate that. I also want to say a personal thank you to Pastor Williams. As a scientist, the fact that you not only listened to God, but used, as you like to call, consecrated common sense and listened to the science and the scientists and the medical professionals who said, hey, wait, we shouldn't be congregating right now. Let's let this virus kind of run its course and play down. Even when things started to get a little bit better for Louisville in the summer, you kind of held fast and went like, yeah, no, we're not going to congregate together just yet. So I am 100% certain that if we had congregated, we would have lost a significant number more of Bates Memorial members, families, and friends if that hadn't happened. The other thing I want to say, both Quisha and Dana emphasized the importance of wearing your mask. Please wear your mask correctly. That's over the nose and the mouth. I've seen people wear it under their chin. I've seen people wear it as a headband. It's not doing you any good. I've seen people only wear it over their mouths. The reason for that is because when you inhale through your nose, the back of your nasal cavity, the back of your oral cavity, that space can actually lead to the lungs. So me just covering my mouth, I still have potential access for the coronavirus to enter my lungs through my nose. So please wear it and wear it correctly. And as you see, even by doing all the right things, wearing the mask correctly, social distancing, disinfecting, there's still that possibility. But knowing that, still do the right things. Don't think, well, I'm going to get it anyway, and that doesn't help. The mask and the social distancing and the disinfecting does play a huge part in protecting us from transmission and contraction of the virus. It's just that sometimes people will do the right things and still get it. Okay, so I don't want you to think that there's no point in that. The last thing I do want to mention is in regards to the vaccines. I'm aware that a lot of people in the African American community are very, very hesitant about the vaccines, and I totally get it. Historically, the medical community hasn't necessarily been kind to African Americans in regards to vaccinations and treatment and things like that. But I assure you, in looking at the data that I've seen, in getting the results about it having a 94-95% efficacy, that means that it's 94-95% effective in preventing you from getting those severe symptoms that a lot of our panelists have mentioned. The safety data that they've included on that, it is going to be a tremendous help in helping to minimize this virus and minimize the spread. But in the midst of that, until we get to the point where all of us can have access to that, we still have to follow all of those very, very important guidelines. And I'll be happy to talk with anybody who's just interested in how the vaccine works and things like that. I won't mention all that information here, but I just want to encourage us to just stay faithful, do what it is that we're supposed to do, so that we can maybe sometimes in 2021 be able to worship together again at Bates Memorial.
Amen, amen, and thank you everyone. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to all the medical professionals. Thank you to everyone who is attending. You know, in the book of Hosea, it says, my people perish because of the lack of knowledge. You know, our sole purpose today was to inform you, let you know that no one is exempt, and help you to make good decisions when it comes to the well-being of you, your loved ones, and anyone you may come in close proximity to. You know, there's a cartoon that used to come on back when I was younger called G.I. Joe. In G.I. Joe, they would always play the episode, and then at the end, they would tell you, hold on, let us go to the commercial and we'll be right back. And when they came back, what they would do is the sergeant would always talk about what the episode was about, so that we as children didn't just take it as something fun to watch. They wanted us to learn something from it. We've done this today to help you learn something that maybe you didn't know, to help you realize that this is real, to help you get to a place where you take it so serious that you can be like what they said at the end of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe said this at the end when they came back. They said, now you know, and knowing's half the battle. So now that you know this ain't a joke, now that you know this is something to take serious, now that you know real people that you know have caught it and are still dealing with the after effects of it, the question becomes, what you gonna do about it? You gonna keep on doing what you used to do, or you gonna start being more responsible? I think the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. So, you know, those of us who call ourselves children of God, those of us who call ourselves disciples of Christ, to whom much is given, much is required. We need to be the examples. If all we doing is following the crowd, hanging out in the middle of the crowd, then that's not us doing what it is we've been called out of darkness into God's marvelous light to do. It's time for us to make some changes and help our society to see that it's up to all of us in order for us to get to a better place. I have something I need to share with you all right quick. I received a text message earlier today, and it's in regards to some inmates in a particular facility. I'm not going to mention the facility because I haven't had time to really check into it all the way, but I do believe this is true. It says inmates are complaining of symptoms of COVID and being ignored. The guard was asked by an inmate, "Are you going to just let us die in here?" The officer replied, "If you do, we will know because you will be stretched out on the floor." The inmates have to wear masks while in the hallways around the staff, but must dispose of their masks once they return to their cells. The inmates feel like their lives don't matter. When they talk to the nurse after exhibiting symptoms of the coronavirus, they're told by the nurse, "No inmate here have the coronavirus, although they have not been tested." And then she laughed. Inmates speaking to one another say they are experiencing symptoms of the coronavirus: chills, cold sweats, weak, hard to move, headaches, and etc. But nothing seems to be done. I mentioned that because, you know, I think it's important for us to realize and understand that those type of things are going on in our society, because there are some folk who feel like some folk aren't important. And so I encourage you, if you know someone who's incarcerated, to reach out to them, see how they're doing. Start reaching out to some of our news stations and have them to do those little investigative reports or whatever they do to go check on our people. You know, when I say our people, it doesn't necessarily have to be our family members. They don't necessarily have to be Black, you know, but people who are incarcerated are in the care of someone else. And if they're not doing their jobs the way it needs to be done, then we need to speak up and help make sure that they're doing what they need to do. That is all I have to say. I once again thank everyone for being on here. I thank our pastor for allowing us this opportunity to be able to present this. To all of you who have shared from your hearts, thank you, thank you, thank you. We will do something as a follow-up to this. We will do something as a group of panelists, and then if need be, we will come back and have some type of follow-up. But maybe people who didn't get a chance to be on this live portion of it, but who are going to watch it later on Facebook. So please, ma'am, please, sir, take care of yourself. Stay safe. Do what we are being instructed to do by the CDC, not the other people that don't want it to be real. All right, I had to catch myself. All right, let's go ahead and pray out so we can close out. Father, we thank you once again for what it is our eyes have seen, our ears have heard, and our hearts have felt. Lord, we thank you for placing it on the hearts and minds of all of us who have been a part of this presentation. We thank you, Lord, for continuing to watch over each and every one of us, for bringing those safely through who have shared, who have had the virus and come out on the other end. And for those who are still experiencing symptoms, Lord, we know that you are our healer. And so we pray, Lord, that you will continue to bring forth healing in their life. Touch them in a way in which only you can from the inside out, so that they will be able to be like the children of Israel when they crossed the Red Sea, knowing that when they got to the other side, it was you and you alone who brought them through. Now, Lord, as we prepare to dismiss from this session, we pray that you will be with each and every individual who has been a part of this, all those who have joined in with us, Lord. We ask that you will continue to watch over us, continue to lead us and guide us, and when necessary, correct us, helping us to be all that you have created us to be. Lord, we know that we can do nothing without you, but we know that with you, all things are possible. So we pray, Lord, that you will help us to be the light, help us to be the salt in this dark and dismal world. And as you're doing what it is you're doing in, through, with, for, and around our lives, Lord, we pray that we will always continue to keep our eyes and minds stayed on Jesus, always lift up Jesus, knowing that it is he who draws all men unto himself. Now, Lord, as we dismiss from this session, we ask that you dismiss us from this session, but never from your love, your grace, your mercy, or your loving kindness. Now unto him who is able to keep us from falling, present us faultless before his presence with exceeding joy, to the only wise God our Father, be all glory, dominion, power, and majesty, now and henceforth and forevermore. Let us all say amen and thank God. All right, God bless you all. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next time.
Bye. It was very good.